That was quite the storm last night. That wasn't one of these little, hit me and then move on. I had a slow-moving storm that dumped a ton of water. My pot was about a third full, and there was thunder and lightning more than I've seen this entire trip. Unfortunately, whatever's going on with my stomach doesn't seem to be clearing up this morning. I'm going to give it a little longer, pop some more Imodium. Now that I've kind of accepted that I'm not going to make it in by noon today to hit the post office, it doesn't matter what time I get in today, and then I'll have a town stop. It's an enforced town stop that I don't really want, but this is the downside of mailing packages. Honestly, since I can't make it into Mountainair in, the 4 or 5 hours I have until the post office closes, if I had water, I'd just hang out here, zero on trail, and save my town monies. Unfortunately, no water sources. That's not really an option. Last well I filled up on is, 5 miles back that way. And the next one that way is in the middle of a bunch of private property, and it's a rancher's house. Since that section does have a good amount of private property, and I don't want to be running off into somebody's shrubbery to, dig a cat hole and tick anybody off, I am going to sit here and hopefully things will improve a little bit, and then I can get going. Other than the intestinal stuff, that was a spectacular night. Basically, a big storm came over from that way, caught up, and it was slow moving, so I had thunder and lightning going off for probably better part of 2 hours. My stomach stuff seems to have settled down to at least where I think I can get a couple of hours between having to go into the bushes, which is all I need to get past the civilized folks up there. And I'll top off with water. I'm hoping to catch a cell tower. That way I can ask Jen if it's safe to go into Mountainair, if I can get a hotel for a reasonable amount, or if I should try and dry camp on the side of the 60. Unfortunately, since I didn't make it in by Saturday at noon, I've got to be there until Monday to wait for my package to be receivable at the post office. Nice of the universe to figure out some way to keep things from getting monotonous out here, huh? Well, I was nice and hidden and legal down here. I could hear vehicles and dogs off in the distance, so I'm glad I stopped when I did. The only slightly crummy thing is, without the stomach issues last night, I could have totally made the road. Might have gotten a little wet. And I'd have my package and probably be getting breakfast and looking for a ride back out to the trail today. Now I'm going to end up losing 2 days. In reality, I think I had better part of a week between my likely stop date, finish date, and when Jen will come by to grab me for the Mississippi. So it's not that big a deal. I'll get a few days with my parents either way. I think it just comes from all the years when I was working and I had to rush out. And if I had 4 days, I was going to use every last iota of those 4 days. Even when I did the JMT, I never did zeros or anything because time was just so precious. These days, I basically live out here, but depending on the trip, there are still time limits. Paddle, for example, if we don't make the ocean after 10 weeks, I'm going to have to paddle the last bit alone because Jen's due back at school and all. And obviously, CDT last year, if you want to do anything like what I view as an authentic CDT, you've got to really push because your weather window is just so small with the San Juans and Glacier. The Arizona Trail this year was my attempt at something where I really didn't have to rush. I had plenty of time. It was an easy, straightforward trail. I could kind of do whatever miles I wanted. And look how that turned out. After the encounter with the unfriendly rancher yesterday, I'm a little on edge. When he came up, I thought he was just going to say hello because everybody else that I ran into on this trail has just been that. Even the people who, own the land, own the grazing rights I was going through. Second guy was nice and did even give me some pointers on what water sources were better than others. And up ahead is a ranch where they actually let us come on and get water as long as we ask nicely. Still feeling a little wobbly, but I'll make it one way or another. It's funny, days like this don't really bother me. Feeling under the weather just kind of is what it is and you deal with it. It's like the weather or anything else, nothing to be done. But when my feet were causing so much issues with the topos, that really got me down. So it feels like it comes out of nowhere. I can't figure out how to stop it, and that it shouldn't happen when I'm north of 10,000 miles hiked over the last couple of years. 20,000, huh? Came over the crest and I was able to pick up that cell tower again. Looks like more thunderstorms this afternoon. Okay, this should be Thompson Ranch headquarters. Per the note, if I go up, knock on the door, should be able to use their hose. Okay, that went easy enough. Guy was home, older gentleman, dogs barking, but none chasing me around. And the hose water tastes delicious. Here's hoping the guy's a Buddhist. Okay, so per the map, this is the property line. So I'm legal here, not over there. And I basically have to trace a box to pick up another fence line and meander my way towards 60. Well, it looks like Snapper, Veggie, and Karma were all in town this morning. Snapper's heading out today, and Veggie and Karma just got in this morning. It looks like I'm just not going to be happy unless I'm the very last person out here. Well, unless you count Bane back there. Hey, new water source. Just in case I hated my new filter that much. So I've just been sitting on this hillside past the trough, debating if I wanted to camp out here or go into town. It does look like the rain's likely to hit me before the 2 hours or so to the road are up, but I don't know. I've had too much sitting around today. I'd rather get into town. Well, if I'd set up there for the second time in 2 days, I would have missed the storm. So I had to climb up this mesa to avoid private property yet again. I'm just trying to get across. I haven't seen any downstrikes too close to me yet, but there is thunder in the area. Unfortunately, the soil here has so much clay in it, it clumps up. Having to go slow not to slip, and I keep feeling like I'm getting higher every step as it builds up on the bottom. I reached US Highway 60, which is the access to Mountainair, around 4 p.m. The rain was coming down quite hard, and the wind was making staying warm really, really difficult if I wasn't moving. And I proceeded to sit there for 2 hours with my thumb out in my rain gear, watching maybe 60 cars come by and nobody stopping. Jen and Dennis both made attempts to contact somebody in town and see if the hotel would come and get me, but it was no luck. I ended up having to unpack my pack in the rain to get at my fleece and my puffy, and by the time somebody finally stopped, I was quite cold. Eventually, an older gentleman pulled over, and I was almost shocked at that point. He was so nice that he actually offered to let me come to his house and stay with him and his wife. Though unfortunately at that point, we'd already booked the last hotel room open in town, so I was already committed. Everybody else who came into Mountainair seems to have ended up at the Rock Motel. Unfortunately, they were away at a family gathering, so they weren't answering the phone the night I came in, and I ended up across town at Turner Inn. That might be the coldest hitch I have done. Being out there in the wind. Could not get anybody to pick me up. I was so cold that when I was signing into the hotel, I was struggling to make my hands write my address. So as soon as I made it into the hotel room, I put all my wet stuff all over the place and climbed into the tub and promptly cooked myself for as long as I could stand it. The town was small and the only food options had been closed when I came in, so dinner that night had consisted of mashed potatoes, some leftover Tabasco crackers, and some popcorn that the owner had gifted me. That got the job done, but obviously it wasn't what I was craving. Every time I come into town, I just want hot food. So the next morning, I took off for a local coffee shop that looked like it was only going to be open for half the day, Sunday morning, and closed on Monday. Once I was full and had helped myself to as much coffee as I could reasonably get down, I went back to the hotel. I would have preferred to just stay off my feet the entire day and take advantage of the rest opportunity that presented itself. However, once I got hungry in mid-afternoon, I had to set out again for an even longer walk for the one restaurant that seemed like it was going to be open in the afternoon. That was the Schaefer Cafe, where I had a decent burger and then I got a large pizza to go, so I'd have something to eat off that night and the next morning. And now to play my favorite New Mexico game. Can I get back to the hotel before the rain soaks my pizza? I didn't feel like walking over to Dollar General, so I've got pizza to eat for dinner and breakfast. Because that cafe I went to this morning doesn't reopen until Tuesday. And home sweet motel. At least until tomorrow morning when the post office opens. And then I am getting the heck out of Dodge as early as I can, because if things follow the current pattern, I'm going to get nailed in the afternoon by a thunderstorm that I don't necessarily want to be hiking through.